will the city clerk please read the title of the item?
Discussion regarding proposal to provide an alternative site for a new Irvine High School in the western sector of the Orange County Great Park.
Okay, I will now turn to City Council Member Agran, who requested this item to be agendized this evening. Go ahead, Councilmember Agran.
Thank you, Mayor. I noted that Mr. Haddad and his team took 50 minutes, 5-0, to make their presentation. Frankly, I welcome that. The comprehensive nature of it makes it much more appealing. I will not take 50 minutes, but I would like to be assured that I have the 15 minutes I need to make a comprehensive presentation on this matter that has a relatively long history and hopefully can be moved forward at this momentous time. So,
yeah, I will allow you because usually we allow the city council members 10 minutes of presentation and 2 rounds of 5 minutes. But since you are asking a special 5 more minutes, I will allow you. But in the future, I want to really appreciate all council members' adherence to our basic rule. We try to briefly move on as much as possible. So if you can try to condense it as much as possible instead of trying to use up all the 15 minutes, it will help us. Go ahead.
I'll proceed taking that as an agreement that I'll have the 15 minutes. Tonight, we have the opportunity to redeem and reinforce Irvine's reputation for excellent planning, outstanding public schools, and wise land use decisions.
1 second. City Clerk, would you please set the time 15 minutes?
Did you set it for Mr. Haddad?
It's a totally different issue, okay?
No, it's a different person.
Go ahead.
Tonight, I'm going to start again. Tonight, we have the opportunity to redeem and reinforce Irvine's reputation for excellent planning, outstanding public schools, and wise land use decisions. Here's the question all of us in the Irvine community must ask ourselves. Should Irvine's next high school, which will be built in the northern part of our city, be located on a remote site more than 3 miles from where most of its prospective students now live, but just 1,000 yards from the proposed James A. Music Jail? Or should the new high school be located in the western sector of the Great Park, close to where families and students already live, and where joint use sports facilities could benefit our entire city? This is the true choice that we face. And in our city, with its rich history of citizen participation in the planning process, this city council chamber is the place, and this is the time, however late the evening, when the voices of Irvine citizens can finally be heard on this issue. Here are the facts to consider. Irvine needs to build a major new high school in the northern part of the city. That is where most of the recent residential growth and development has been taking place, in villages with relatively new names in Irvine: Woodbury, Woodbury East, Stonegate, Portola Springs, and Cypress Village. While the school district is ultimately responsible for siting and building new schools to meet growing student enrollment, the city of Irvine, in fact, this city council, has a critically important role to play. Under state law, the mayor and city council, assisted by the planning commission, constitute the chief land use planning body for the city. Accordingly, as council members, we have a solemn responsibility to remain faithful to our city's general plan and to our highest public planning aspirations, including provisions for the best possible location of public schools. Planning and building Irvine's 6th comprehensive high school, IUSD will have 5, Beckman is another one in the Tustin Unified School District, is a project of enormous cost and consequence. In fact, the Irvine Unified School District estimates that the new high school, built to accommodate 2,400 students, will cost at least $262 million. Yes, $262 million for one high school. That's an initial capital cost of more than $1,100 for every man, woman, and child living in Irvine. Obviously, a new state-of-the-art high school costing more than $250 million should be a tremendous asset to the entire city. But that presumes it is located in the right place. And that's the problem we face. Instead of putting the new high school at the western edge of the Great Park, close to the new residential villages where many thousands of Irvine residents already live, the school district, the Irvine Company, and Heritage Fields, more often referred to now as 5 Point Communities, agreed 2 years ago to locate the high school on land on the eastern edge of Irvine, close to the Music Jail and the city of Lake Forest. This is shown as Site A on the land use map. And incidentally, I brought extra copies of the map, hard copies that are available at the clerk's desk for those who wish. I will say tonight what I have said before. I believe Site A is the worst possible location for Irvine's next high school, and here's why. First, Site A is on land now owned by Heritage Fields, 5 Point Communities, land that is located in the most remote area of our city. A new high school at this location would be a long-distance commuter school for students coming from Irvine villages such as Woodbury and Cypress Village that are mostly 3 to 4 miles away. Second, while Heritage Fields 5 Point Communities is proposing another 4,600 new housing units as part of a new entitlement proximate to Site A, it will be a long time before many of these homes are approved and actually built. And more than half of these Irvine residential units will actually be located in the Saddleback Valley Unified School District. That means these Irvine-based students would be attending El Toro High School in Lake Forest, nearly 3 miles away, deriving no benefit at all from the new Irvine High School at Site A. Third, a further concern with Site A is its proximity to a major correctional facility. The Orange County supervisors and the sheriff are continuing their drive to totally transform the nearby James A. Music Honor Farm. They want to transform it from a minimum security, dormitory-style correctional facility housing about 1,000 inmates into a huge, multi-story, hardened jail facility, soon housing 3,100 inmates, and eventually up to 7,584 inmates. Obviously, If the county prevails, and I regret that Supervisor Todd Spitzer left, he could be helpful in this matter, but obviously, if the county prevails, the current character of the music facility as a minimum security honor farm would be completely changed. In fact, under the county's massive jail expansion proposal, which includes the importation of thousands of federal and state inmates, provision would have to be made for maximum security prisoners at music. At its maximum build-out, music would be the largest jail in the state of California. And the proposed new high school at Site A would be just 1,000 yards from Music Jail. Now, it's important to note again that the Irvine Unified School District has entered into separate agreements with the Irvine Company and 5 Point Communities regarding mutual obligations to site and construct the new high school. While these agreements designate Site A for the high school, the agreements also allow, by mutual consent among the parties, for the consideration of a superior alternative site. In fairness to the school district, when I pointed out these important provisions to IUSD Superintendent Terry Walker, he has said both publicly and privately and repeatedly that any consideration of an alternative site for the high school would require that there be an actual, viable offer of land for the school district to consider. He's right. But let me be very clear about my intentions tonight. I placed this item on the agenda so that the Irvine City Council tonight can take the first definitive steps in making a specific offer of land that can provide a superior site for Irvine's next high school. Now I want to take a few minutes to describe that alternative superior site, shown as Site B on the land use map. This alternative site of about 40 acres is located just south of the major intersection of Trabuco and Sand Canyon. More precisely, it is located on O Street in the already developing western sector of the Great Park. This is city-owned land, it is part of the Great Park, and it is a superior site for several very good reasons. First, a new high school at Site B would be in close proximity to many thousands of existing Irvine residents north of the Interstate 5 freeway and east of Jeffrey Road, in villages that are developed and are developing right now. For most students, a high school at Site B would be within a mile or even a half mile of where they live. They could actually walk to school or bicycle to school or take a shuttle bus to and from school. Imagine that. No need for a dangerous, expensive, long-distance, daily commute by thousands of teenagers who are either drivers or passengers. Second, a high school at Site B, adjacent to and actually part of the Great Park Sports Park, would create an ideal opportunity for the school district and the city to collaborate in designing, building, and operating state-of-the-art sports facilities. Obviously, 5 Point Communities would be a part of this as well. Those facilities would be like our South Lawn soccer fields, which are opening for public use in a matter of days. These major sports facilities, offering shared use by the district and its students, would likely include additional soccer fields, a championship football and soccer stadium, baseball and softball diamonds, including possibly a dedicated championship baseball stadium, a large gymnasium and field house, a tennis complex, and an aquatics complex. Additional joint use facilities could, of course, be other than sports facilities. For example, in addition to the standard theater and library that comes with a new high school, the Great Park itself is planned to include a number of theaters and smaller amphitheaters, as well as a major library that can be designed and built for shared use. Third, a high school at Site B in the park would lend itself to a host of unique signature programs that mirror the educational mission of the Great Park itself. Imagine the opportunities for what I call the outdoor sciences, the environmental and earth sciences that will shape our future: botany, zoology, forestry, agronomy, and all the related soil sciences. Did you know that the Great Parks metropolitan farming and sustainability programs right now include experimental projects in organic farming, solar energy, algae to energy, a project of that sort, and recycling, serious recycling. These are already attracting national and international attention. Think of the amazing opportunities for teachers and students alike who are lucky enough to teach and learn at Great Park High. Fourth, and this is important in these times of limited public resources, under the terms of the state's school funding and land transfer provisions, the city and Great Park would be expected to receive at least $60 million for our share of the value of the land at Site B. This would represent a very large infusion of funds to accelerate the Great Park's western sector development. In fact, with the relocation of the high school from Site A to Site B, the total new capital investment in public projects in the Great Park's western sector in just the next few years would be astounding. The high school and the associated high school Great Park joint use facilities will easily be worth more than $300 million. And just south of the high school, also within the Great Park, a site has been established for the soon-to-be-built Orange County Fire Authority Station number 20. This new fire station and its public enhancements will be built on 1 to 2 acres of Great Park land that we are selling for millions of dollars. The precedent is there. The new fire station will involve about $10 million in fire authority capital investment. In addition, less than a half-mile north of the high school, at the Trabuco entrance to the Great Park, is the city's proposed new police headquarters, a $100 million beautiful community facility, functional of course, that I believe can be built and will be built in the next 5 years. Altogether, this concentration of public facilities development within and at the edge of the western sector of the Great Park adds up to well over $400 million. In fact, nearly $500 million. This would be by far the biggest concentration of public facilities investment in the history of the city of Irvine. I want to note for the record that all this new public investment would be in addition to whatever was proposed tonight, but also in addition to what we've already managed to do in the 230-acre Phase 1 western sector of the Great Park. Since taking control of the Great Park property in 2005, We've planned, designed, built, and operated a growing list of remarkable public facilities at the western sector of the Great Park, just steps away from what could be Great Park High at Site B. These Great Park features, which we managed to build throughout the worst of the Great Recession, include the Balloon and Balloon Park, the restored historic Hangar 244, the Palm Court and Arts Complex, the festival site, the carousel, the farm and food lab, and the 100-acre Great Park Farm, the North Lawn, the Terrace Lawn, and in a matter of days, the opening of the new Visitor Center, the viewing pier and reflecting pond, the walkable historic timeline, and the magnificent South Lawn with our first 4 lighted tournament-quality soccer fields. By the way, 2 of these lighted soccer fields are natural turf and 2 are artificial turf. These are no doubt the best soccer fields in Orange County. And remember this, each and every one of these features in the western sector of the Great Park, built to the specifications of Ken Smith's award-winning master design, would perfectly complement and enhance the value of Great Park High at Site B. Now, the recession is over, and the Irvine Company and 5 Point Communities and the Irvine Unified School District are fully investing once again in Irvine development and construction. It's time for all of them to get reinvested in excellent planning as well. And it's time for this City Council to provide leadership by focusing our attention on excellent planning too. I ask tonight that we all rededicate ourselves to honoring Irvine's tradition of excellence in planning. That certainly includes identifying the best site for Irvine's new high school and then building the best possible high school that benefits from nearby park amenities of the highest quality. Remember, Irvine's newest high school will be built to last more than 100 years. It will forever be a defining feature of the northern part of our city, including the Great Park. That's why this is a land use planning decision that our entire community must get right. So let's work together. Let's take action together. Yes, at long last, let's get it right. And I plead with my colleagues, let's get it right starting tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, exceeded 5 more minutes, but that's fine. City Clerk, is there...
Mayor, I'd like to now offer formally the motion to which people could speak, my colleagues can speak, but I want people to understand exactly. I'm not just interested in a discussion tonight. I want us to see if we can actually initiate a motion here that allows us to make an offer of 40 acres of land. So may I read the motion?
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I move that city staff be directed as follows. Do we have a copy of the motion that could be put up as well? Number 1, to make an approximately 40-acre site of city-owned land, generally in the vicinity of the site referred to as Site B, available to Heritage Fields for purchase for the sum of $60 million, payable in 6 installments of $10 million annually, with the intent that the property ultimately be conveyed to the Irvine Unified School District for the development of the district's 5th high school. 2, staff should be further directed to draft a letter of understanding that, consistent with the district superintendent's written correspondence to the city dated August 29, 2013, acknowledges a mutual goal of achieving the development of the district's 5th high school on Site B, with the intent that the letter be signed by Irvine Unified School District, the City of Irvine, Heritage Fields El Toro, LLC, and the Irvine Company. 3, that city staff be directed further to form a joint planning committee for the district's 5th high school on Site B that would include representatives from the Irvine Unified School District, the City of Irvine, with a focus on joint use facilities, Heritage Fields, and the Irvine Company. And 4, that staff be directed to make Site B immediately available for inspection by Irvine Unified School District and any other agencies or authorities, including state agencies, as necessary to conduct an analysis of the suitability of the site for development of the district's 5th high school, as suggested by the district superintendent in his written correspondence to the city dated August 29, 2013.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, motion is in place and seconded. And before we debate on this motion, we have, again, I cannot even count the substantial, almost I think over 20 people would like to speak. So I would like to apply same 2-minute rules. If you can summarize it quickly, and we'll save some time. First speaker on the item is Carolyn Inman, followed by Susan Sayer.
Good evening, Mayor Choi, City Council members, and Superintendent Walker. In 1975, my family moved to Irvine. A few months later, my daughter started kindergarten at University Park Elementary. 1 year from today, my grandson will start kindergarten at University Park Elementary. Like many families, we are on our 3rd generation of Irvine citizens. And the most important thing to us is schools, safety, and planning. Like so many others that have moved here, those are the reasons that we moved here, and it's the reasons that my daughter and her family has stayed here. I support relocation of the high school to Site B for the following, basically for safety. First of all, I'm very concerned about teenage drivers. I guess this morning I didn't actually hear it. Somebody told me about it, but there was another teenager in a serious accident this morning. And just a little, very short time ago, we had 5 of our precious young people killed in a car accident. Brain research tells us that people do not have certain kinds of judgment until they get into their 20s. Teenage drivers are not going to be able to be convinced to drive safely and carefully all the time. It just isn't happening. So I think that we need to minimize the amount of driving that they have just to get to school. I'm seriously concerned about the safety in terms of the jail. You know, we do a great deal to make things safe for our students. We have sexual predators are not allowed close to schools. Many communities do not have liquor stores. We actually talk about these things, make rules, and yet it's okay to have our children next to a jail. I disagree. Okay, it turned red really fast. Okay, I do support the relocation of the school. I think that it's it is a risk, even if no child was ever harmed by someone at that jail. It's a risk. We know it's a possibility, and it's a risk that simply isn't necessary. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Susan, and followed by our superintendent, Terry Walker. I didn't realize your card was underneath. I should have brought you up in advance, but you are the next.
Well, good evening again. I moved to Irvine about going on 34 years ago, especially for the purpose of enrolling my kids in Irvine schools. I am strongly opposed to the Site A location for the new Irvine High School, and I am also in favor of Site B. The reasons are, as have been previously stated, the site is far from the great percentage of the students who will be attending that school, and there are going to be a lot of residents living near that school that will be going to another school district. So why build the school there? Another reason is that Site A is on a high-speed thoroughfare without sidewalks, which would necessitate expensive infrastructure changes in order that students can safely walk or bicycle to school. The site is also located adjacent to the Great Park Contamination Site, IRP3, and near the contamination site known as Anomaly Area 3. I attended the Great Park Restoration Advisory Board meeting last month and subsequently consulted with Mr. Callion, the RAB Navy co-chair, and he informed me that both sites have buried contamination with a cap. Both sites have been designated as not being appropriate for any kind of use. Both sites are undergoing continual monitoring, and both sites would have immediate inspection after a disastrous event, such as an earthquake, flooding, or fire. In all fairness, Mr. Callion informed me that building adjacent to the site will be permitted and should be safe. I'm sorry, but I do not approve of the idea of building a school or any other public building, for that matter, adjacent to a contamination site that is deemed inappropriate for any use and that requires ongoing monitoring and evaluation in times of emergency. And I also oppose it because it's located near the Music Jail. For your information, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has rules for school site selection, which include taking into consideration environmental health and safety risks, as well as providing for safe routes to and from school. I ask you, please support our Irvine youth, provide them with a safe school site, select Site B. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Governor Walker, Superintendent of IUSD. Since this matter directly relates to your school district, I'm going to treat you as a special and allow you some extra time that you prepared for.
I appreciate that. And good evening. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. And I'm very sensitive about doing my best to synthesize the complexities of this, of course, which are as Councilmember Agran has alluded to, it's been a long history. 5 months ago, I was here with similar message points, so forgive me if some of you are experiencing some deja vu as I go through some of these points. But as you also know, I crafted a letter recently that was delivered to all of you, which has been referenced already, as well as going back all the way to 2011, some messages about clarifying the district's position on this, and that we have a site. That we were happy with the site, the developers were happy with the site, and that we wanted to make clear that if there were any alternative sites, that they would be brought forward as expediently as possible, because of course planning something of the magnitude that's been described here takes a lot of planning to do it right and to get it right, and that's what we've been focused on since. You know, I want to start by saying that the Board of Education, our leadership team and staff and teachers, obviously, our central mission, our central theme behind all decision-making is to protect the interests of our students, and safety is one of those #1 priorities with our families and the community, and we do not waver from that, and people know that. We are a renowned school district for our excellence, you all know that, and the people in our organization are dedicated to the stewardship of that excellence. But I want to next share something with you that I don't know that a lot of people know. That Irvine Unified School District is one of the fastest growing school districts in America. I think you may have seen the LA Times article that said that the city of Irvine is one of the fastest growing cities in America, but we certainly, we know that a lot of that's attributed to our schools, a lot of families moving into this area. And because of that, our responsibility to make sure we have the kinds of facilities we need in order to accommodate that kind of enrollment is significant. We're now approaching 30,000 students, and within the next 7 years, we will be well over 40,000 students, which is a staggering amount of growth. And since 2011, as I said, I've reiterated that our position on this, of course, is that we're comfortable with Site A, of course, because otherwise we wouldn't have selected it in the first place. And we are in the process, as you know, of going through a due diligence process with that site. But if there was going to be an alternative, that it would be prudent and helpful, given the complexity of enrollment and things, to move that along. We've proceeded, absent an alternative site, we've proceeded with that due diligence, including lots of meetings and time and expense spent. And over the past 2 years, again, we've reminded folks that if they wanted us to engage in a good faith analysis of an alternative site, then we needed to fully comprehend what that looked like. I don't know that we would be able to achieve that this evening, because there's still a lot of different complexities that we need to be resolved. I've heard discussions about that the vision may be this or it may be that at the Great Park, and certainly that the devil is in the details, and we certainly agree with that. But and I included some of these comments in April, but I also want to address that it's been 5 months since April, and at that time we were even saying this is very critical that we move quickly on this. We are closing escrow on this land. We have architectural plans and site plans. This is going to be a phenomenal school site at Site A. We're not opposed to considering, of course, Site B if that is able to be structured in a way that aligns with the mitigation agreements we have with developers. I mean, we have contractual and binding obligations to deliver on those agreements, as Mr. Haddad pointed out earlier. And it was great to hear that they are committed to that end. And at the very best, I'll tell you that what we might achieve tonight is an agreement to run concurrently to move forward. Because, quite frankly, I guess I go back to 2011 when I wrote that email saying we need to move ahead here if, in fact, we're happy to consider this, but it needs to be proposed. We need to have an understanding of what it is we're evaluating. The implications of not being able to finish this school site will be significant. The burden will be borne by our other high school sites. We will see explosive growth that will have adverse impacts that I know are not in alignment with the interests of parents and families in those areas. And we worry, just as an example, Irvine High School, currently at just over 1,800 or approximately 1,850 students, will be over 2,500 students by 2016. I mean, that's growth of 650 students. To put that in perspective, that would require more than 20 new portables to be added, or increasing class size. And we know, of course, the other implications that relate to overcrowding at school sites. Northwood High would expand from over 2,100 to over 2,900 students by 2016. And I could go on with the other high schools, and I want to be sensitive to your time. But this overcrowding, as I said, has massive implications for instruction, could dramatically influence how we structure class sizes and those kinds of things. And of course, ultimately, I keep hearing the term of safety, which is always one of our number one priorities, and always will be, working with IPD and other agencies to make sure, in addition to having the high academic excellence that we're so well known for, that we have safe schools as well. But this kind of overcrowding creates safety issues at those school sites, traffic and the congestion and other things. There have been some, I just want to point out, again, open to the possibility of an alternative site. I can repeat that several times. I hope I don't need to. But I do want to address some of the criticisms about this. In my opinion, in looking at the maps, it isn't a remote location. This is located in an area where there are going to be a lot of developments of homes and neighborhoods. And this is a community, this is designed as a community school. We're well known for that in Irvine, and this would continue that tradition. This is in the initial stages of development, but long term this will be a thriving community around here. And we believe this high school would be a valued part of that. And it is true that Site A is located near the James A. Music Facility, which is currently an honor farm, and it could be expanded in the years ahead. Certainly we've heard of those plans. We're fully aware of those. And we're working with Orange County Sheriff's Department, Irvine Police Department, other state and education agencies to analyze this potential impact and ensure the safety and viability of this location. But to illustrate this point, we've already engaged with a number of agencies and researched reports and data and found no evidence that nor have we been presented any evidence, and it's been, it's been the site since 2011, that would suggest schools in the vicinity of these kinds of correctional facilities have any kind of correlation to needing greater security. We've learned that there's 90 other schools in Orange County that are proximal to jail facilities, and I certainly don't want to come out, nor would the board, to say we're in support of this expansion of Music Jail. We would hope that an equal amount of energy would be applied to stopping that. But it's just, if we're going to make some assumptions about these things, it would be helpful if we really look at some empirical data that would suggest that that is true. We've included analyses of EIRs, the environmental impact reports, and there's no actual crime data analyses that would suggest there's a correlation. Certainly, an inherent fear and concern from public, which is natural, but it's things like this. As we go through this thoughtful process, we want to make sure that we're being very clear that safety is always the #1 priority for IUSD, and we will continue to collaborate with the Irvine Police Department and other agencies, as we have on this site, and to ensure that we have the most robust security plans possible, including state-of-the-art safety and surveillance, and obviously we have our support from IPD with police officer presence at all of our school sites, all of our high school sites, and our own campus security teams. But in regard to the possibility of Site B being the alternative, I think it's important, if we're going to move forward with this, that we fully understand that IUSD would need to analyze the significant implications of what we've looked at here this evening. A proposal to place a school in the center or near the center of so much that would go into this first great metropolitan park of the 21st century. I agree with Beth or Councilmember Crom's comments about the vision of the park.
Beth is okay.
Thank you. I know we're on a first-name basis, but
she earned that title, by the way.
Yeah, it's one of those things. As we begin to, the devil's in the details. If we're going to put a park there, I need to understand. I saw a lot of numbers about a lot of visitors, and certainly people talking about safety and things. Well, we know when there's a lot of visitors from outside of even Irvine, if this is a county park, we need to understand what that's going to look like and how that might impact the safety and security of a school site that's directly in the middle of that. I don't know if that was even part of the original, master planning that a high school would be there. It's my understanding the Site B site it currently prohibits the building of a high school, but that doesn't mean that couldn't be changed. But I guess it just illustrates the point that in order for us to engage in this, we have to be open and candid about the pros and cons of either of those sites. Certainly, Site B2 has the potential to have significant traffic, significant congestion, and significant late-night activities, large tournaments. I've heard lots of things about sports complexes and those things. Those draw a lot of people. And again, I wonder about the sense of community that would be felt in something that's mostly surrounded by commercial and those other kinds of uses. And I'll finish up by just saying, I have tremendous confidence in our own law enforcement partners, no doubt, to manage this kind of activity. But these would need to be understood and analyzed for us to move forward with this, and we would engage in that process. I think we owe it to our students to fully understand what this would entail, what it would involve, and those implications. And we would need to do the same due diligence for the potential of joint use. This would be unlike any joint use any of us have probably ever seen, and especially given that Site B abuts to what appears to be Saddleback Unified School District, which, again, I don't know what the issue is with the people being in Saddleback, but in the city of Irvine. Those will be Saddleback students unless they sign those over to us, and I don't know that that's a foregone conclusion. So just to close, we remain open to this possibility. Despite the significant delays, we recognize that as good stewards of what's good for students, we need to be open to the possibilities, and we would certainly engage in that process. But we really need to understand the devil's in the details. Anyone who wants to make this seem like a very simplistic thing must not understand all the complexities that go into some of these binding contractual agreements. But we would engage in that, and I know I lost some of the speakers tonight to having to go home. It is a school night. But I want to thank you, and I've also been joined tonight by Andreas Schaltes, who's our legal counsel, who's worked with us very closely and works with the Irvine Company and Heritage Fields, as well as John Fogarty, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, in case you have some legal questions or facilities questions that require more technical expertise. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Now, next speaker is Harvey Bliss, followed by Sheila Claiborne.
I have a slide, or at least the PDF. I'm May Choi, City Council members. I'm Harvey Bliss, a longtime resident of Irvine. If we could display the
What we'll
slide,
do is, why don't we start the 2 minutes once we've got the graphic displayed, please. Thank you.
I'd like to point out some advantages of Side A that have not been noticed before, probably. One is that you notice it's right next to this hazardous waste dump, a landfill that's covered. It requires continuous inspection. That's a fabulous opportunity for chemistry students to go and investigate and see if there's any hazardous waste escaping. Especially after an earthquake, there's bound to be some cracks in the cover. Also, the music jail facility, they could certainly hold daily chain gang demonstrations. That would be a wonderful adjunct to their recreational programs. Also, you have to remember that there are lots of visitors that come to a jail. It's not just the inmates that are stuck inside there. For example, Theo Lacey has visitor hours Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and each inmate is allowed to have 2 adults and 1 child. At Theo Lacey, it's a massive influx of visitors, which will certainly provide more community diversity for the sociology students at the high school. Now, if we move to Site B, we can see that the students would be deprived of the opportunity to run 2 miles to get to the tennis courts. Also, it's right near the police facility. Our students are very prone to watch horror movies. Having a police facility right nearby would tend to eliminate the horror of having some terrible tragedy happen at the high school. Similarly with the fire station. So we can see there are lots of advantages of Site A and some disadvantages of Site B that maybe we should consider some further. Thank you very much.
Okay, Sheila Claiborne, followed by Sharon Toji.
Hi, I'm Sheila Claiborne. I'm a second grade teacher at East Shore Elementary, and I'm also a resident of Irvine for 23 years, raised my kids here. So we love the schools. We had Woodbridge and Uni, and I'm just really excited about the Great Park in general. I live right there at Portola Springs at the very end of Irvine. I do live in the apartment complex that does have security gates, and whenever I'm out in the community, I kind of downplay the fact that there's a jail just 3 miles away. I don't think people really know that it is there. When I do drive down Irvine Boulevard to go to the Lake Forest communities, I do see the barbed wire. We do know where the gates are, and we do see where they're getting ready to expand. I don't think barbed wire and high school go together. I would like to see that educational vision that Larry's proposed here, because I see that happening at the Great Park. I participate in activities there, the art, the music, the parks, families coming out. That goes together with public use. And I'd like to continue to see that Great Park being used like that so that the community can come. I like the high school being the center of that. The agricultural events that are going on there with the UCI extension, providing educational programs, where I see, by the way, a lot of senior citizens coming out to take advantage of those things. So I'm all for moving that high school to Site B. I would not want to see it at Site A.
Thank you. Sharon Toji, followed by Melissa Fox.
Good evening, everyone, and probably as many people know, I was on the very first school board, and I'm very proud of what we set up at that time. I was actually the person who made the astounding motion to provide, I think it was something like a $1 million bond issue. Everybody said, oh, we can't get that passed. And I said, oh, yes, we can. And I made the motion, and that's how we started to build schools in Irvine. You know, I like Site B for a lot of reasons. I'm thinking about the fact that the very, very first schools that several of my children went to were the little school that's right there as you turn into Marine Drive. It feels sort of historic that we might actually have a school that's very close to that same area. I don't agree with the superintendent that this is in the center of the great park. I think it's at the very edge of the great park, but I do think that it can take tremendous advantage of all the things in the great park. We had a vision in that first school district, and we went on to carry that vision, for instance, with the Barclay Theater, that shared usage of facilities was going to be a hallmark of what we did. Our little University Park grade school that several of my children went to is right next to a city park, for instance. There's just so much about this. And by the way, in terms of the jail, I'm not, you know, I know it can be a security risk, of course, but there are security risks everywhere. We all know that by the shootings and so forth. But you know something? I don't like the idea that high school students will be looking at a vision of what I think is one of the very worst things about our society, and that is that we incarcerate more people here in the United States than they do in Russia and China. I think that's a terrible thing about our country. It's something we need to be educating people. We need to be providing what's best about our country and our society, and I want that to be the vision of what our new high school students have to look at every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa Fox, followed by James Antonor.
Good evening, Mayor Choi and the council. I am Melissa Fox. I am a mother of a Beckman High School student, and it's unfortunate that tonight's council is the same night as the all-sports meeting at Beckman High School. So all the football team parents and the wrestling wrestling we had ours last night, but lacrosse and girls softball, many sporting parents have to be at the gym tonight and we're unable to be here. And I bring that up because I've spoken with many of them on the football boosters and on the wrestling boosters. Beckman is the fifth high school in Irvine. We're talking about what's going to be the sixth high school. Beckman would greatly benefit from the ability to use a joint use facility at a great park. We do not have our own stadium, and we suffer a lot of problems working with Tustin High School. We also overflow, as you see tonight. Youth athleticism is a core value in Irvine, and expanding the ability to have joint use facilities for all of our high school students would greatly improve access to these facilities and our quality of life. So as the mother also of a Beckman athlete, I can tell you that there are many nights that students come home late, often as late as 8 p.m. The problem with Site A is that it is too far from so many of the residents that it will serve. And also the fact that it's next to an honor farm, and an ever-expanding honor farm, that if you're having your son or daughter ride their bike home at 8 o'clock at night, I can tell you that there is a safety risk because the expansion of these facilities will in fact bring in businesses that serve those the prison system, like bail bondsmen. These are not where I want my cheerleader or my football student driving by on their bike at night. Prudent planning is what made Irvine the safest city of its size in the nation. We all understand the pressures on Irvine Unified School District to meet today's pressing need, but we cannot sacrifice our city's future, and I urge the council to move forward very quickly and approve the offer of this Site B and get right started on whatever it takes to get the site ready for finalizing the negotiations. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. James Antonor, followed by Fran Antonor.
Good evening, honorable council members. My name is James Antonor, and it's rather fitting, I think, that I follow the previous speaker because she spoke to the fact that Beckman High School does not have the advantage of shared use facilities, and there's a cost to that. So I've chosen to speak this evening about something positive and so effective that we are and have every right to be quite proud of. It is the extraordinary collaborative relationship which has existed in our city since its inception between the city itself and the school districts within its borders. It seems that no city in the state of California has done anything close to supporting the schools in the way that Irvine has done so. In addition to the long-standing practice of placing parks adjacent to the schools, Irvine enthusiastically participates in a model joint use agreement with the schools for use of all municipal facilities. Just this past year, Irvine allocated more than $5 million to provide both direct and indirect support for the schools, and thanks to the success of Measure BB last November, a measure passed by an overwhelming majority of the voters, sorry, I've lost my place here, a powerful, overwhelming majority of the voters, and a powerful measure of the community's support for quality education, there will be even more city resources directed to support our schools. The joint use agreement not only calls for the city to maintain its parks, but to, under many circumstances, help maintain some school district resources as well. The collaborative joint use model has helped to set our city apart from other cities and our schools apart from other schools. And it makes us a special place in the region and perhaps across the entire state. We are celebrated for it. And who benefits? The homeowners and property owners, our vibrant business community, our students and their families. They benefit in immeasurable ways. Not only are their lives enriched by safe and easily accessible recreational experiences, but community safety is significantly improved by reducing commuting to and from after-school athletic, arts, and cultural programs. I know my time is up. I'll be done in a moment. Virtually every school in Irvine, virtually every neighborhood benefits from this arrangement, this unprecedented city-school collaboration. I taught at Irvine High School for more than 3 decades. My wife and I raised our children here, and as a result, I'm intimately familiar with the overwhelmingly positive impact of our joint use agreement and collaborative model and what impact it has had on all of us. Just in terms of one school, Irvine High School, one can really see these benefits. With the city stadium, the tennis courts, the city practice fields, the baseball diamonds, and the swim complex, not to mention the youth center and arts cultural centers at the Heritage Park that have been available to the students. The educational experience they enjoyed was the richest, and which was richer and far safer than if those facilities had not been available.
Thank you.
Finally, honorable members, the council, honorable members of the council, you have before you a wonderful opportunity to extend this time-honored and much heralded model to the new high school still in the planning stages. My understanding is Site A would not have the benefits of joint use facilities, and Site B would. I encourage you to seize the opportunity to do the right thing, the neighborly thing to our new neighbors, the most beneficial thing, the Irvine smart thing, and move forward with putting an offer on the table for Terry Walker and the school board.
Thank you. Your time is up,
okay,
please.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Friend Antonia and Max Fox, followed by Max Fox.
Hello, I'm Fran Antonor, and I'm a 26-year resident of Irvine and a 30-year educator in the Irvine Unified School District. 18 of those 30 years was spent at Irvine High School. I'd like to congratulate the council for considering the idea of an alternative high school site. I'd like to speak to timeliness. We've heard Terry Walker say that Site A has been on the board since 2011. Several of you tonight have alluded to the fact that this has been under discussion, that you've received communiques. And I would strongly urge the board to act on this tonight and to provide something to the school district so that they can begin to consider whether or not Site B could be a viable alternative. As a teacher and an administrator of Irvine High School, I have direct experience with the shared use. We have a world-class aquatic center adjacent to the high school. And while there are lots and lots of activities at the aquatic center bringing in people from across the county and across the nation, It does not negatively impact the high school because it's around the times that the high school is not using the pool. It's around the times that the high school is not in session. I also was an administrator at Irvine High School while we were awaiting the opening of Northwood High School, and our enrollment approached 3,000 students. Yes, it's crowded. There are some advantages. You have incredible athletic teams because you have so many kids to draw from, and it is workable. But I would also urge the council to work in tandem with the school district to work on overcrowding mitigation at the 4 high schools as a 5th high school is being built out. Thank you.
Thank you. Max Fox, followed by Dina Friedman.
Mayor Choi and members of the council, I come here as a Beckman student. I am in high school, and I know for a fact that high school is something that must be considered safe. It's some place where teens are at the point where they have the most testosterone and other hormonic things going through them. And I suffer from this along with many others. So high school must be safe. And I know that no jail or prison or anything that the correctional facility is 100% safe. I have seen a prisoner from Music County Jail get tackled on the Greenbelt in Lake Forest. This new high school, if it's at Site A, is going to be a lot closer. If we put the high school at Site B, where we also can place a new police facility, that is a lot safer. We can have teenagers coming to school and not worry about what they're going to do if they're going to encounter anyone from the music correctional facility. And it's just one place where you can put your trust and you know 100% that this is a safe environment. Safety must be number one.
Okay. Thank you. Dina Friedman, followed by next person. I cannot be sure of Meshal Chohan or Chehel. Okay, Dina, go ahead.
Good evening. I'm Dinah Frieden, and let me just say, we have one great city. Thank you so much for listening to everyone here this evening. Really, I applaud you. Thank you very much. I come here telling you that I served on the Budget Commission for the Irvine Unified School District for 7 years. When I was asked to serve on the Budget Commission, I said, "Are you kidding me? I don't have a CPA. I don't have an MBA. I'm not an accountant. I'm a community volunteer. I've been school site council president. I've been on a committee to select a principal." And they said to me, "You are exactly who we want because you are the heart of the committee." And I come to you and ask you to listen to your hearts. I cannot even believe I'm standing here and asking you to even think about a high school placed within a 10-minute walk from a correctional facility. 10 minutes is what it takes to walk 1,000 yards. I do it all the time. I know. My children did it all the time going to elementary school. Trust me, they were not walking very fast, and they were picking dandelions along the way and hoping for a good snack in their lunch. But it's only 10 minutes. That is out of the question. We have a premier school district and a model city, and I looked at the plans for the presentation tonight, and I go, oh my goodness, what a fabulous city this is. We all have decisions that we make, and we look at the pros and the cons, and we listen to the statistics and the pie charts and the percentiles. But in the end, it's our gut and it's our heart. And I have to ask you to listen to your heart, because I cannot believe that Site A is the right decision. B is better. It is simply that. B is better. The decision that you make on this issue may slow things down for a year or two, for a few students here or there, for a couple years, but those decisions will last decades. I speak to my friend who was the first graduating class of University High School, and we listened to the stories of what it was like then. That was, I hate to say, it's going to be 35 years.
Thank you very much for your time is up.
Okay.
So Michelle
Thank
Chohan.
you. Listen to your heart.
Yeah. Followed by Joel Smith. Is Michelle Chohan here? Okay. Joel Smith, followed by Ed Pope.
Good evening. My name is Joel Smith. I am 25 years old. I've lived in Irvine for over 23 years now. Proud to say that. I'm here to talk about the possibility of the joint use of the athletic facilities. I've had lots of soccer kids that have all gone home. A lot of the older soccer coaches have as well gone home, as you can notice. Being a young coach, I think I can offer a unique perspective. I attended Northwood High School. I was on the U.S. national team. I played professionally. I played at Concordia University here in Irvine. I've coached at Northwood, currently at Woodbridge, and for Irvine Strikers here. And I just want to start off by saying, as a coach, as a player, I would not want to go to any games at this new proposed high school at Site A, right by the Music Jail. I wouldn't want to invite my parents, my friends to come watch me. We all know we love to go watch our neighbors, our kids playing games. I wouldn't go watch my friends' kids play at that stadium. In terms of the possibility of the joint facilities, if it were to be moved to Site B, I just really think if you look at the example of Irvine High School, people don't talk about UCI. The tournaments that are held at UCI that could be moved over to the Great Park would just be tremendous. We have 4 great fields there right now that you can see all the kids that were here earlier are excited to use. If we built a state-of-the-art stadium there in conjunction with the high school, the possibilities to host CIF final games, huge tournaments there would just be tremendous, and I just really think that's something to take into account. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed Pope. And then Emmett Raitt.
Mayor Choi and members of the council, my name is Ed Pope. I've lived in the same house in Turtle Rock for, since 1972. I'm a retired educator. I taught for 31 years at Marina High School in Huntington Beach, where I was History and Social Studies Department Chair. And I retain an abiding interest in public schools. I worked very hard to gather signatures for Measure BB. As a longtime resident, I'm very proud of the smart planning decisions that have been in line with our master plan and that have made Irvine so special. Therefore, I support Councilman Agran's proposal. This is an opportunity for the council to avoid a terrible planning mistake, that mistake being Site A. Proposed high school Site A has at least 3 strikes against it, in my view. One, its remoteness and its distance from the homes and residences of its potential students. It's also on or adjacent to a toxic waste dump the Navy left behind, and we don't want a Belmont High School debacle like LA has seen. Most troubling, its proximity to the expanded prison at the music site. In contrast, Site B is within a half mile to a mile of the homes of its potential students, and it has the possibility of world-class athletic and educational assets available in the Great Park through the joint use of parks and schools, tradition which has made Irvine so special? We know that Irvine's fine schools have and will continue to attract residents, and we have to ask ourselves, what will we offer them? Jailhouse High or Great Park High? Thank you.
Thank you. Emmett Ray, followed by Peggy Schnabel.
Mayor Choi, members of the council, my name is Emmett Raid. I've lived in Turtle Rock for 30 years. I've raised 3 kids, all of whom have graduated from University High School. I am, as far as I know, the only male former president of the Parent-Teacher-Student Association, probably at any of the high schools. That was a horror story, but that's all right. The main thing I am concerned about is time. As the district has said, their houses are being built. This comes as no surprise. In Field of Dreams, they said, if you build it, they will come. And we're building them, and they're coming. And when they come, they're not going to want to go to a high school that is stuffed with 2,600 kids or 3,000 kids, as Uni is now. We need to act quickly on whatever site you decide on. But we can't, as one person said, wait a couple of years to see what falls out. It has been mentioned that this is going to be a 100-year high school. If it is a 100-year high school, you can't just look at where the houses are now, because that's not servicing people for the next 100 years. You have to look at the developments that are going in around the Great Park, that are going to go in north of the Great Park, that are going to go in near Side A. Those are the people, and those are, at least what I've seen on the internet, million-dollar homes. Those are the people that are going to be the ones who are going to be using the new high school. So we can't consider, well, let me back. If you're going to consider the possibility that the music jail will be expanded, and you're going to consider the possibility that there will be joint use facilities constructed on at the Great Park, and you want to consider those as part of your decision, you also have to consider where are the houses going to be built in the future. And that is going to be closer to Site A than Site B. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy Schnabel, followed by Anil Ali.
Good evening, Mayor Choi and members of the City Council. My name is Peggy Schneebly, and I'm the president of the Woodbridge High School PTSA. I'm here tonight to address Irvine's Fifth High School and my concerns with delays to the review process were due to the 4 existing high schools. My twins entered Woodbridge High School in the fall of 2007 when the student enrollment was 2,063 students. My youngest child today began her senior year at Woodbridge High School, and the school's population is now 2,463 students, the largest of all the 4 high schools. Delaying the opening of the 5th high school past 2016 will likely increase the size of Woodbridge High School to nearly 2,700 students and require more portables, 6 to 7 more portables, on a campus site that is already constrained by its size and existing facilities. Most of us hoped our high schools would never exceed 2,000 students. The general plan says 1,800 students is a typical high school size, and 2,400 is a maximum when there's a short-term overload of facilities. Woodbridge would be the least impacted of the 4 high schools if the 5th high school opening is delayed. Northwood and Irvine High School would each add over 700 students in a 3-year period of time, with Northwood's student population approaching nearly 3,000 students. That's a dramatic increase. It's hard to understand how increasing student populations by 30% can allow our schools to maintain the standards and quality we have today. The need for a 5th high school has long been agreed to by the school district and the city. The school district has been moving forward on planning for a 5th high school for several years. The environmental review will consider the proposed site and any alternative sites. The environmental review can analyze the project and determine if any mitigations are needed for the proposed and the alternate sites. Once the review is complete, a final decision can be made. I'm concerned that delaying the review process will result in all of our high schools being overcrowded, and that's a concern of every parent of future and high school students in Irvine. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker, gladly to announce Anila
Ali.
Ali.
Mayor Choi, City Council, I'm back. I am here on behalf of the Woodbury parents. They are not as lucky as I am. My kids are all grown up. And I'm so happy today that my kids have graduated from high school, because I can tell you for sure that if my kids were going to Jailhouse High, I would have sold my house and moved elsewhere so that they are not close to some high school. And why do I say that so passionately? I'm an educator. I live in Irvine, very fortunately, but I work in a school district that is ridden with such problems. It's a gang-infested school district. And I want to ask you guys, do you know what it's like to sort of be in a lockdown situation? Has anyone ever been in one? 4 hours, 5 hours, you can't leave. Your kids are here. You can't call with all the new laws that they have. You can't make phone calls. You just have to sit in a lockdown because somebody from the police facility escaped. Some prisoner ran away, and you're stuck. You can't call anyone. The phone lines are down. I have been in that situation, and we continue to be in that situation at least once a year. That's a real life situation, 40 minutes away from Irvine. And if we are going to have that high school over there, we better be ready for situations like that, because that's real urban life. I do want to read the statement of the Woodbury parents, Mashal and Farah Bhatti. Mayor, you were saying their names earlier, and they have expressed the same kind of concern. And I'm just going to find that. Sarah? Sorry. They apologize. Their kids, they have school, so they want me to read this for her. This is Farah Bhatti. I'm a parent of Woodbury community. I speak for many concerned parents from our community because of the proposed Site A for the new high school, just 1,000 yards from the music jail. First of all, the suggested location is quite far from our community. 3 miles is too far, and so the students won't be able to walk to it. Secondly, what concerns us the most is the close proximity to the music jail, which will be increasing in capacity in the next year or so. We urge you to reconsider the Site B in the western part of the Great Park, which is where most of the students live and where joint use sports facilities will also be available to us, and we urge you to choose Site B. This is the whole group of parents, Pakistanis and the Muslim parents of the Woodbury High School. I speak on their behalf.
Thank you very much. I think that concludes all the public comments. We'll conclude that, and then we'll back to our City Council colleagues, and the first speaker will be Councilmember Agran.
Thank you very much, Mayor Choi, and thanks for sticking it out. A lot of you have been here, and Peggy, nice to see you. When you talk about planning, we have to take what you say seriously because we know you have a great background. Peggy used to work here at the city. Let me say, and I am really proud of the relationship that we have with the school district. I appreciate the superintendent being here, and I know this is complicated and frustrating. I mean, I will tell you, the conversation about relocation to the high school didn't start 10 minutes ago, and in fact could have been resolved years ago, and it wasn't, and that's just kind of the way things sometimes happen. I'm glad that we at least are in a position to talk about it now, and I think with the presentation that 5 Point made earlier this evening, the opportunity to do an integrated planning process to really understand how to leverage the private development, the public development, and the development of schools is important. People have said, I don't know, maybe music is going to, be expanded. I'm just telling you, they have $100 million now for expansion phase number 1. Today, we got an update. The Orange County Sheriff's Department contacted staff to schedule briefings because they are going to seek additional funds. They have $100 million for the first phase of their development, which is going forward. That now there's another $500 million that's been provided by the state of California for competition for jail expansion, because as most of you probably know, the state would like to take its problems and return them to the local jurisdictions. I will also tell you that the expansion of the Music Jail, and this has been a major concern for me, is not being driven by Orange County's own indigenous criminal population, but because of the opportunity to rent jail beds. That has become a major economic opportunity. And I believe when I asked Sheriff Hutchins, she indicated that currently, just through ICE detainees and other criminals which they agree to house for other jurisdictions, Orange County is making over $30 million a year. So essentially what's happening is that the state is making money available for jurisdictions that are willing to take on other people's problems, and then those jurisdictions are basically leveraging the state's money in order to create a revenue stream by renting jail beds. And so this is very concerning to me. And so now there's another $500 million that's been put on the table that is going to be pursued, and we're considered a large county. They're setting aside $240 million of that $500 million for large counties like Orange County. And I'll tell you something, not every county wants to be the place where these folks come, but music is one of those unique opportunities, and it's not a good opportunity in my view, where there's land and room to expand. They have an EIR that would allow this to become a jail of well over 7,000 beds, over 7,500 beds. And so, you know, it's late, but I'm just telling you, you know, we started tonight talking about how to leverage opportunities in order to create public facilities and sports facilities and community benefits, you know, while the private developer pursues their development interests, while the city pursues its vision for an Orange County Great Park. Well, there are other visions that are going on simultaneously, and one of them is a vision for music to become not an honor farm. It will cease to be an honor farm with Phase 1. And, as has been said, depending on the types of criminals that it agrees to house, it will no longer be a low-level offender facility. So we're talking about, you know, a 100-year school. We're talking about things building out. You know, there are no guarantees in life. I agree with you, Superintendent Walker. You know, I could live next to a jail and have a long and productive life. I could live in a park and something horrible could happen to me. But I think this is not about sort of the just random occurrences that could happen in life. This is about planning. This is about what tools do we have to mitigate the likelihood that we're going to live to regret building a school that close to a correctional facility over which we have no control. And at a time when, sadly, counties are willing to take on other people's prisoners, especially if they can leverage the state's money to build the beds, in order to enhance county revenues. I mean, that's just the reality. So we have to kind of understand all of these opportunities. What gives me confidence, and I am prepared to support the motion this evening, what gives me confidence is we have 5 Point communities in the room, and they've indicated that they're open to looking at this. We have Mike LeBlanc in the back of the room with the Irvine Company, and I have no doubt that the Irvine Company is not going to be the one party in this conversation that's going to say, no, we're not willing to be at the table. The superintendent has indicated, yes, I'm prepared to be at the table, but we need to set the table quickly. We don't have time. You know, this can't be next spring. This has to be right now. So I'm hoping that we can create that convening of all the appropriate people and begin that conversation. Because I know this is a community that can accomplish great things when it sets its mind to it. And yes, in a perfect world, I also want to say on behalf of schools that are large, I graduated from a high school with 3,000 students. My graduating class was 1,100. And just in case you're wondering, I graduated in the upper 51st percentile, so you can work that out. But, and look where I am today. So I just want to say I appreciate the school district's challenges, but I also can commit, at least for myself and I think for my colleagues, that if this is advanced this evening, I have confidence that with the support of 5 Point Communities, the Irvine Company, the school district, and the city, we can get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Crum. I want to remind that we have Jeff Lalloway, Mayor Pro Tem, has 2 children at home and wants to get home as quickly as possible. So as much as I would like to allow you, originally that we allowed 5 minutes of rotation. If necessary, we may come around the second round, but let's try to stick by that. And the next is Mayor Pro Tem Jeff Lalloway.
To be clear, my wife's in New Jersey, and I have a babysitter tonight, so I have to get home at some point. She needs me to get home by midnight, so I apologize, Mr. Mayor. So then I'll be fast. I have a couple problems with this. I'll give you the bad part first. First off, I'm a little concerned about the fear-mongering. Jailhouse High, sadly, that sounds like a term that's been coined to gin up fear. And I think that's a poor way for us to develop public policy. I think we need to make rational, reasoned decisions here. And frankly, with our developer here, whose homes are closer to the jail than the school is, I think it's in poor taste to suggest that those folks that are going to live in those homes are going to be in some type of danger. I think that's just not true. I would suggest to you that Santa Ana High in Santa Ana and Central Jail, which is a huge maximum security facility, is closer than the proximity between Great Park High. I actually like that. We should probably, Terry, can we call it Great Park High? I like that. Between Great Park High and whatever it is, Music Jail. So, let's make some reasoned decisions here, and let's not be into fear-mongering. Let's get on with this and make rational decisions. Secondly, I'm concerned about the issue dealing with the time. IUSD, and Terry's been here in April. We've been dealing with this for months and months. I remember back in July of 2012 when the EIR was approved that had a high school in it. This issue never arose. And at that time, we knew the jail was going to be large. We knew the jail was going to be a problem for us. And we are unified here in this council, strongly unified in opposition to the expansion of Music Jail. I don't think there's one of us here on this council, on this dais, that would say anything positive about Music Jail. Nevertheless, we knew that was going to be built then, and we also knew the high school location at that point, and that wasn't an issue then. We need to get on with this. With that said, I'm okay with offering this land to IUSD. I am concerned, though, that with this amount, and again, this is the first time I've heard $60 million. It was bandied about 2 years ago, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it should be a number we stick with. I have, representing the citizens of this city, I have a fiduciary duty to actually make sure that we offer this land and we are paid the actual value for whatever this is, and not just accept an amount that was thrown around 2 years ago. I understand $60 million was the number because of this potential deal that could have been completed with all the parties, that's the amount the city would get, but now we're basically offering that up. I'm not opposed to $60 million, I just don't know what the number is. And in order for us to do our due diligence and do this properly, we have to make sure that we're representing the citizens and not just accepting some random number that was thrown around 2 years ago. I don't know how we could deal with that. I'd be okay with some type of, way of figuring this out, if it's an appraisal or whatever it might be. I'm not even sure we could do this. Can we offer land? Let me direct this to the city attorney. Can we offer? You got to wake up now. Can we offer land to one party without? We're a city. We're a public entity. Can we offer land to one entity like this without going out to bid or without at least getting some appraisal for a number and just negotiate with that and just offer it for a number and that's it? Could we offer it for $1 and say, here you go?
Yes, generally, yes, you can.
Generally?
Yes, sometimes it's better practice to maybe get an appraisal so it's not a gift of public funds, but clearly use of property for a school is in the public benefit, so that's not really an issue. So yes, this is legally doable.
Okay, again, I feel better having this fiduciary duty that representing the citizens of the city not to just accept that amount. And I understand that sounds like an amount that may have been negotiated. I just don't feel comfortable with that. So that deals with item 1 of Councilman Agran's motion. I'm just not comfortable with that. Secondly, I'm okay to offer this land, and I'm okay to allow and to encourage IUSD to proceed on a dual track of the current site A and B, and for them to figure it out. As I've said in the newspaper, they are the experts. I defer to IUSD to determine the best place. If Councilman Agran's his mission here is to find the best high school, let IUSD make that decision, not us. We are not experts. They're going to hire experts to tell them which is the best high school. I appreciate the offer now gives them something that they can compare to Site A. And with their guidance, they've been elected by the citizens of our city, by the citizens of Irvine, to make that choice, not us. If they make the wrong choice, they won't win re-election. The board will be out. Terry will be finding a new job probably because people will have pitchforks at his door. So I'm not comfortable with requiring this motion to have a provision that says that they have to sign this letter about a mutual goal. Let them figure it out. Give them the authority. That would also concern me with item 3, which would have some joint planning committee. I do not want anyone but IUSD to have the authority to determine who the best high school is. I will give them the ability. I'm okay with giving them the ability to figure out if it's A or B and offer up that land. But I'm not okay with creating some joint entity to figure this out, and that would consist of the city and IUSD. We don't have anything to do with building this high school. We can offer the land, we can give them the choice, and I think that's the ultimate goal of Councilman Agran. I don't believe he wants to make the actual decision. I hope not. I think the actual decision is best made with IUSD, and I support our school district. I support the experts there. I support Terry Walker. I'm okay with item 4, which is to allow them to have immediate ability to inspect the site. But again, the price and requiring IUSD to do certain things, I'm not okay with that. If Councilman Agran is amenable to somehow changing his motion, I would support it. And most importantly, figuring out how we can price this. We could probably figure out a way to price it at the same time we allow staff to figure out what the document's going to look like, and allow IUSD, most importantly, allow the timeline to proceed, allow IUSD to start planning their high school and determining which one. So if you're willing to change the motion somewhat, you'll have my support. Otherwise, do not believe this council should in any way impinge upon IUSD's authority to determine what is the best high school. But I'm okay with giving them the ability to choose between different places in the Great Park. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shea.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll be brief. We have so much more still on the agenda. We have discussed this several times in the past, though for 2 of the years I was off the council, I know it was discussed in more detail, and it has been a couple times since I've been back. So, number one, the issues that were brought forward, I understand them. I agree with some of the points that are brought up, but simply, the city of Irvine does not have the right to make this decision. What we have a right to do is to set aside and identify another site so that IUSD, 5 Points, or Heritage Fields and Irvine Company can make a determination other than Site A. And because of that, I am going to support the motion tonight. I would like to move this along. I would like to give the school district the opportunity. According to their letter, they suggest that if we offer a site, they're willing to accept looking at another site. And I think to solve a problem, I think we need to do it. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to vote for this and then allow the district, IUSD and Heritage Fields, to look at this, see if it works for them, and if the motion is a minimum of $60 million, I think that seems to be a fair amount considering the price of parkland. But it's
I'm not sure. I would have to analyze all that too. So if we want to do an appraisal, once it gets down the road and there's a decision to do this, we can certainly talk about it. But I do believe that 60 million seems like a fair amount. And I do believe a couple years ago this was brought up in discussion, so I don't think it's a new number that's just cropped up. So with that, I will be supporting the motion this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That brings up to my turn. This issue has been discussed, to my memory, several times at this dais. And we repeated practically the same thing. We talked about the Site A versus Site B. The City Council not only has a right, but also we have the duty to be concerned about where our schools will be located. Since these are our children in our city. Having said that, the location of the school is not our decision. It is the IUSD school board decision. They are the policy-making body. So I just want to make it clear that our tone should be more of a suggestion, not cornering them into as if they are making some criminal decision or terrible wrong decision. I don't think we should be there. We don't have that authority. There are serious pluses and minuses with each side. I can hear both ways. But the voters elected the school board to make the decision by the school board. I have studied the letter from IUSD closely, and they've made several points which I summarize as IUSD objects to what it believes is a politicalization of where the high school is located. IUSD believes that the complications have been misunderstood or misstated. IUSD says it is very late in the process if the fifth high school isn't open by 2016. All our high schools, University High School, Woodbridge High School, Northwood, and Irvine High School will be seriously overcrowded. Consequently, the students will suffer greatly. IUSD likes the site along Irvine Boulevard and is proceeding with it. But IUSD may be open to more discussions provided that it comes through the IUSD and the City Liaison Committee. I sat on the school board for 6 years. I understand the complexities better than the most. I want to be helpful to IUSD. I will vote for the motion if we can modify number 3, forming another joint planning committee, because it sounds like that committee will override the school board's decision. This should be advisory committee, but we do have advisory committee, which is a city and the school district liaison committee. So we can talk about and the pros and cons and make some suggestions, and then ultimate decision should be up to the school board. In general, in providing that option for school board, concurrently they can proceed weighing the options. So with the site A and B, I will vote for this motion so that the IUSD to have as many options as possible, so the school board ultimately can make a good decision. So I would like to turn to the Councilman Agran, if you can either clarify or tweak number 3 to form a joint planning committee, what kind of authority you are anticipating, whether you can delete this item, so that will be helpful to me.
Let me just respond to a number of points that have been made. No, I don't want to change the motion. Let me tell you why. While we do not select a site, we have the power, and thank goodness we have the resources in the form of land, to be able to offer an alternative site. Offer an alternative site that our development partner, in this case 5 Point Communities, is prepared to purchase and reconvey to the school district. Nothing can be forced on the school district. If the school board, justifiably or not, were to decide, no, we're not going to move off of Site A, we chose Site A, we're sticking with it, and you lack then the mutual consent that would be required. Why do you need a joint committee? Because if there is going to be mutual consent to move from Site A to Site B, you want all the relevant parties working together. That, yes, involves the city, certainly involves 5 Point Communities, it involves the Irvine Company, and it involves IUSD. I want to see them getting together tomorrow morning. I asked our city manager, if this were to pass, what would it take to make Site B immediately available for inspection? That's number 4.
Yeah.
That, he said, could be done by Friday, literally by this Friday. I take to heart all the comments about the timeliness. You know, we can kind of point fingers here, because you know where I stood on this thing in 2011, and I just didn't have a majority of council members who were prepared to confront the issue at that time. And yes, time has elapsed. And I've brought it back time and again. I'm persistent because I want to see this opportunity secured. Now, it may be that after inspection and so forth, the parties can't agree that that's a superior alternative site. I doubt that will be their conclusion, but I understand the lines of authority here. Now, let me just respond to this $60 million business. This has a lot to do with the complications of school financing. You know, the state's very much involved. There are questions of appraised value. The nice thing about selling it to 5 Point Communities is that we set a figure, a $60 million figure. Now, it may be that when they reconvey it, it may be that it's actually found to be worth more, and that would be something for the committee that's looking into this business deal and so forth to examine and say, wow, the state's reimbursing us with more instead of 60 million, we can in effect get 65 million or 68 million or whatever. I just think it's pretty darn good if they're standing there and they'll say, yeah, we'll put $60 million on the table, $10 million a year to move this thing along. And in good faith, take a real good look at it. By the way, Councilmember Lalaway, I want to joke with you a little bit, but I have the feeling that you'd be all for this if it weren't my idea. And
Oh, Larry, stop.
and,
Stop.
And let me just say, it wasn't really my idea. Dan Young of the Irvine Company, Emil Haddad, they talked about the possibilities.
Well, now I'm definitely against it.
They talked about the possibilities of a site in the western sector of the Great Park, either on 5 Points land or at Site B on our own land. And that was Emil Haddad's idea. It was a great idea when he came up with it. And
Okay.
and now we have a chance to do it.
Yeah, I think you clarified. I understand number 4, I have no trouble. And number 3, if you feel this is only planning committee will make suggestions, and then ultimately, as long as you understand the line of authority clearly, this is a decision for the school boards to decide. It's not just pushing, mandating them to follow. I don't think that is our intent here, right?
Well, I'm going to
Yeah.
repeat,
Yeah.
we have no authority to
Exactly.
mandate them.
Okay, if
They
that's
have
the-
to make their own decision.
Yeah, with that clarification, yeah, I will, yeah, now it clears. I'm not going to insist that to get rid of number 3. And then I think we have Jeff Lalloway would like to add a few.
So
to make it short, please, so you can go home.
I love staying here. I'm going to stay here forever.
Come on.
So to clarify, items 2 and 3 are contingent upon IUSD accepting this offer.
Of course.
Well, I'm asking the maker of the motion.
Yes.
Okay. Can we put that in there just to be clear? In the event that
No, I'm not going to change a word on this. I'm not going to fuel the notion that somehow we're imposing this on otherwise reasonable people.
Well, when you call it jailhouse, what did you call it, jailhouse high?
Did I call it that?
In some of the emails I saw, yeah, you did.
I called it that?
In Irvine Matters, which I believe comes out under your
Yeah.
email, you called it jailhouse high.
I don't think I did.
I believe you did.
I don't think, although hereafter, I think Mr. Pope was the one who used that term. From here on out, it's probably a pretty good bumper sticker. Jailhouse high or Great Park high.
It would make a great campaign issue, wouldn't it? Well, look, if we understand 2 and 3 are contingent, and if you're willing to say they are, that's fine. I'm extremely concerned that a deal has been negotiated in private without any council input with regard to the $60 million. It's been a number. It was not approved. It was not even dealt with by this council before. I am just not comfortable approving an amount without any, and I mean any, rational basis. We have no appraisal. We have no negotiations that I know of, at least with this council or in a subcommittee or anyone appointed to represent this council, without any rational basis except for some number that was picked out of the air. I am extremely uncomfortable, and I cannot approve. I won't vote for this motion based on just a number that someone made up. There's no rational basis whatsoever. It may have been thrown around a few years ago, but I have a fiduciary duty to represent these citizens and get the best possible deal. And I do not feel, I don't know that this is the best possible deal. And as such, without knowing and without having something that I can hang on to say this is the best deal for the cities of Irvine and our residents, I just can't approve this. I can't approve the rest. And if there's a way you can deal with the money and not lock us into $60 million, I'll approve it, because I'm okay with allowing IUSD to explore this. But if you want to insist upon some number that was made up, I can't approve this.
Mayor, could I just provide clarification?
Can I give answer for you?
Sure.
I think
As long as it's the right answer.
Since this has been discussed for a long time, and then also $60 million is not new here, I understand that the rationale came from based upon at that time, even now, I think that's close to $3 million per acre, $40 million. That gives us $120 million. But I understand that the state is not going to reimburse 100%. But the minimum 50%. That's where 60 million came. And a while ago, you did state that this will be minimum $60 million. If somehow through negotiation with the state, if we can squeeze more dollars out of it, it could be 65, it could be 70. So there's a room for more.
Well, I'll tell you this. I can approve it if you put in the words minimum sum of $60 million, and then we conduct an appraisal. We conduct an appraisal to determine what the actual value for residential zoned highest and best use land is. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think I can live with that minimum.
Yeah. I don't know all the business about the appraisal, but the 60 million is a minimum. It was stated that it's a minimum.
Yeah, also
And
we'll add a minimum.
as this
sum
whole
of
thing
60
goes
million.
through the system, it's possible it will be more than 60 million.
Yeah. So he wants a word minimum in there.
And are you open to an appraisal of some sort? So we can have something to base our number on.
The
We
land
need
is
something
going-
to base our number on.
The land is going to be appraised by people who know more about this than I do, namely the State Department of Education and others who will be looking at the value of the land. The idea is...
Okay, you make a great point then. Let's allow them to value it, and then I believe the way that it works is we get half that value. And let's have a minimum of $60 million. Look, I need a way to value, to determine that we're getting the best value for this land. And if it's $4 million an acre, I mean, we don't know. We're taking a number of $3 million an acre.
Parklands, according to our budget, just if I can interject, it's
no.
only 200,000 an acre. It's
But-
not even
But we're
close
selling
to
it
3
as
million.
we're selling it as highest and best use. We're not selling it as parkland.
No, that's not true.
Mayor?
But anyway, I don't want to get in a big
The mayor
debate.
was correct. 60 million came from what a couple of years ago was deemed to be about $3 million an acre, and the state coming up with, for us, basically, would be half of that. And so that's the 60 million. It may be, if we put the word minimum in, which I assume is no problem for 5 Point, is it? Please come forward.
Yeah, we will not object to the word 60 million, the 60 million, minimum 60 million. The 60 million has a long history, as has been articulated, and I don't think I need to get into it. But I can tell you right now that from our perspective, if the concept is to appraise it as residential, this is not residential land. This was valued in your own reports at about $234,000 an acre, which makes it about $10 million. So in essence, and if you recall, actually, I think, Councilman Larry, you were part of it, and I know for a fact that Councilman Agran, I took issue with the value of $60 million back then because it was 6 times the value that was put in your report. There was a number that was included in another set of negotiation, which we never got to, and the number stuck, and we never really went back to retrade that value. This is not residential land. This will be land that will be conveyed to the city, to the school, if the school chooses to do it. So we have no issue with putting the word 60 million, but I want to make sure, as I'm always am with all of you, in terms of transparency, that's not a number that doesn't have a lot of flexibility.
Well, if I'm correct, the deal is we're replacing your housing that's being relocated potentially because of this. So it is, we are replacing, that's the way this deal worked. We're replacing residential with parkland, basically.
Mayor Pro Temp, I think at the risk of you being counseled again that we shouldn't be talking about housing in this discussion, the fact of the matter
right now.
the fact of the matter is that is all going to be subject to discussion if truly this is going to be relocated, and if it is true that the 40 acres that we have will be freed up, and if it's true that the city has an ability to give us residential housing over there, then we will be open to discussions about what the number is. But none of that has been put on the table for us. This is a concept that came out tonight. We will be talking about it. I want to give this council, this body, to one more time vote 5-0, because that is part of what happened tonight that excited me a lot to see 5-0 vote. And if it means that a minimum 60 million would allow us to see that vote, then we will be in favor of that.
Well,
everything you just articulated is going to be part of the discussion.
That's what I'm trying to get to, is I don't want to be locked into a number today, and we offer it to you, and it's $60 million. If there's a way we can figure out, and I can hold on to something, that it is this number, this is the number we can, you'll show me, and there's a lot to be worked out, I understand. This is the number that we're going with, not just, hey, it's $60 million because this is the number we worked on 2 years ago. 2 years ago, you'll acknowledge the real estate market was a lot different everywhere, including Irvine. And now it's much more valuable land. I don't want to get into the details of it, but my point is I need something to say it's $60 million, not just this motion, this piece of paper that says it's $60 million. I need some rational basis to make a vote. And I want to make it 5-0. I want to, because I do want to offer this land IUSD. But again, the number concerns me greatly.
Again, at the risk of repeating myself, if the word minimum moves this motion along and we get whatever decision you're going to make, and the school district is fine with the idea of giving itself that option, we've always said we are on board with that. I think that what you just talked about requires a lot of more discussion, a lot of more analysis as to the freed up side, the 40 acres, and what that means. So let's leave it at that. If everybody here is happy with the word minimum, we all know that we're going to have a lot of discussions, and we will be supportive of that.
So then let me understand this. Then we're not here making a deal. We will continue to discuss what this amount will be, and at some point, and that'll be later when we come back with the transaction potentially, sometime later. Am I okay so far? At that point, we'll finalize the number if IUSD accepts our triangulated vote here issue.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Tonight, I understand we're setting in motion a process.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor Choi?
Yeah.
I accept the addition of the word minimum of $60 million. I accept that. Let me also just say, and I want to conclude with something very positive here. I also want to say that the I'm losing my train of thought here. That I want.
You have already said everything. That's why.
No. Well, that's fair enough. Let me just say here that I wanted to conclude. You know, we had gotten this letter from the superintendent. I waded through all 5 pages of it. Finally, the second to the last sentence, I got to what was for me the gold nugget that was in there, where the superintendent said, true to his word previously, he said, in short, it is time for all parties to work together on behalf of the Irvine community with actions that are strategic, productive, and transparent. If the city and Heritage, meaning Heritage Fields, have an alternative site to consider, IUSD and our Board of Education will review the proposal in good faith, just as it has indicated it would do since 2011. That was, for me, the gold nugget. Our action is responsive to that, and it allows all of this to go forward. I think that pretty much does it, Mayor.
Yeah,
Except there is
okay.
one procedural matter. See, if this had been taken up first in conjunction with the 6.1, then that committee would have been charged. But let me just suggest, if this passes, I don't want to try and offer a motion to reinsert it. I just want it to be understood that our staff will consider itself charged with the responsibility of, in its negotiations, incorporating this action if we take it, so that the matter of the high school and its relationship to everything else will become part and parcel of those continuing negotiations.
Well, I want this as a separate item. I don't want this, I don't want their...
It is a separate item.
I don't want, well, you're saying it's
It
part
is
and parcel and together. I don't want the great park to be held up by this deal, potentially. Yes, he is.
No, I'm not.
Then what are you
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah,
Make it clear.
It is separate. It is separate. This land deal is separate, okay?
Let's vote on
This
this one, then we'll go
from-
back to
yeah.
the other one then, okay?
That definitely this land offer is a separate deal. Okay, all discussion have been concluded. I'm gonna call for question. City Clerk, would you please set it for voting? Okay, please vote.